YouTube! Today we're going to be reacting to the 1974 Super Tornado Outbreak. This video is by June 1st, so if you'd like to watch the video or check out June 1st, all that information will be in the description below. But let's not waste time. The 1974 Tornado Super Outbreak.
Wednesday, April 3rd, 1974, Cleveland, Tennessee.
It's also worth mentioning that I heard Tanner, Alabama, had two F5s hit it the same day, and it was during this outbreak. I know a lot of people talked about that. Maybe we'll get some information here about that.
It is early afternoon in southeastern Tennessee. The early days of spring have brought unseasonably hot and muggy weather to the Great Appalachian Valley. Residents know all too well what this type of weather usually brings in the late afternoon. And so do forecasters, having implemented thunderstorm watches that morning. But little did any of them expect the scope of what was about to unfold. At 2 p.m. local time, to the south of town, a supercell thunderstorm plants a tornado in the Eastview neighborhood. 100 injuries and a fatality were reported with the storm. This F3 tornado would be the first significant tornado of what was about to become the most impactful day in United States tornado history.
Was that Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama? Is that Georgia? Dang, dude. Here we go.
Over the next 18 hours, a staggering additional 143 tornadoes would reach the ground across the region, spanning from the jungle of southern Mississippi to the lowlands of southern Ontario. The human impact was devastating, but the economic and sheer amount of area affected made this event simply unprecedented, cementing April 3rd, 1974, not only as a tornado outbreak, but the super outbreak.
He's right there in it, dude.
The outbreak story starts 48 hours earlier, as the evolution of the weather system began to take shape. Cyclogenesis off of the Rocky Mountains was driven by a massive trough in the jet stream overhead, drawing the primed Gulf air over the Tennessee and Ohio valleys. An overnight elevated storm complex would progress through this region on the 2nd. This would weaken capping that would normally prevent storms and bolster wind shear profiles that would support strong supercell thunderstorms, setting the stage for the main show that afternoon of April 3rd. And sure enough, surface-based supercells would fire off in two lines, one over central Illinois and the other over the Ohio Valley. At 2:20 p.m. local time, the first historic tornado would plant itself west of Leopold, Indiana. Most of its 68-mile-long track.
Yo, Alabama. Indiana gets some tough tornadoes too, dude. I don't feel like Indiana's talked about enough. I feel like that's one of those areas that's had some notable tornadoes, but we never really talk about it. Like, don't get me wrong, like, it's mentioned, but it's never really, heavily talked about. Indiana gets some tough tornadoes, man. Some really tough tornadoes.
Was over rural areas before steamrolling the communities of DuPont, Martinsburg, and Daisy Hill, where farms, a school, and dozens of homes were hit. This would mark the first of 7 F5 tornadoes that day. For context, an F5 is the highest category a tornado can be, considered to be incredible damage. At this moment in time, only select tornado scientists and individuals in the Weather Service knew what an F5 really meant. That would all change after April 3rd, but that explanation will have to wait. Almost simultaneously with the DuPont tornado, 30 miles south is Irvington, Kentucky, where the second F5 of the event is starting to make its way northward, turning towards a city along the Ohio River named Brandenburg.
Good old Kentucky,
the western
baby.
Half of town would be hit with vicious force, shredding nearly everything above ground and throwing it into the mighty river. Numerous well-constructed anchored structures completely obliterated with little evidence of their prior existence, driving many to consider this F5 possibly the strongest of the event. In Brandenburg alone, 28 lives were taken and another
RIP.
250 were seriously injured. Back to the north, the supercell responsible for the first F5 hit site.
Once again, Kentucky gets some rough ones, man, which I feel like Kentucky's talked about a lot more, especially I've heard of this one, but also you got Mayfield, and then here just this year you had the Somerset and London tornado, which got an F4 rating. I'm pretty sure it got an F4 rating. Yeah, Kentucky's got some tough ones too.
And was dropping
Dixie Alley, baby.
This F4 would wipe away a major portion of Hanover, Indiana, but miraculously, no fatalities took place within the town's limits. Just upstream was Madison, where the same could not be said, as 11 lives were claimed by this tornado. Even though this supercell had yet to perform its encore, 100 miles northeast of Madison, a completely different supercell had spawned yet another F5. This one, however, is squarely aimed at the city of Xenia, Ohio.
This one has actually sparked a little controversy. Number one, it was one of those that Ted Fujita actually nearly rated an F6, but of course, how can it be worse than the F5 when the F5's already, complete destruction? But you also see, like, some people comment and say, how the damage actually wasn't that bad, less well-constructed homes, so on and so forth. Which I don't know. I haven't looked into this tornado a whole lot. I've just caught glimpses of it and information just along the way through the tornado journey here. And, it does seem like back in the day the homes weren't as well constructed. So there definitely leaves some doubt. But whenever you have such damage that even Mr. Tornado himself, Ted Fujita, talks about how he had never seen damage that bad. I mean, that deserves some respect, Deserves some respect when it comes from him.
This tornado was of multi-vortex nature, with the parent circulation spanning nearly a half-mile wide. It hit Xenia dead center, flattening the subdivision of Windsor Park before slamming the high school. Students in after-school activities lay in the hallways moments before impact. A school bus would be launched into the auditorium.
It launched a school bus into the auditorium. Woo!
Multiple residents captured the tornado on film, resulting in some of the most famous tornado images in history. Past Xenia, the towns of Wilberforce and Cedarville would also be impacted. By tornado's end, over 1,400 homes and businesses were destroyed, 1,000 were injured, and 32 people perished.
R.I.P. All right, guys, what do you think? Do you think the Xenia, Ohio F5 was that bad? Or do you think it's a mixture of, just not well-constructed homes and so on and so forth? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below.
Back over the Ohio River to the west of Cincinnati.
Keep in mind, people perished in this tornado, so be respectful. I love a good debate, right? I encourage it. It's awesome. But, and you gather information along the way. Maybe there's information that people share that others didn't know and so on and so forth. Just be a little respectful. People could have had family. They could have been there themselves. You get the picture.
The same storm that spawned the DuPont and Madison tornadoes produced the fourth F5 of the day. It crossed state lines from Kentucky into Ohio, and upon crossing the river, the twister crashed into the bankside neighborhood of Sailor Park, Cincinnati.
So two in Kentucky?
It would flip a floating restaurant barge, and homes built to withstand river flooding were slabbed with ease, some of which were thrown into the Ohio. Thousands of Cincinnati residents watched the tornado live on TV as it traversed the western city limits. Despite impacting the Cincinnati metro,
That's scary.
only 3 fatalities occurred in the fourth F5. Well to the north, one of the cyclical supercells from the Illinois initiation region spins up its 7th tornado. The city of Monticello, Indiana would be hit head-on by the F4, destroying the county courthouse and 40 other structures. The Penn Central Railroad Bridge over the Tippecanoe River would also be heavily damaged. The F4 was far from over, though, as the communities of Rochester and Talma would be also hit head-on. By the end of this remarkable F4, another 18 lives were lost alongside another 285 injuries.
R.I.P.
As the afternoon turned to evening, the threat would transition further south into the Tennessee Valley. Supercells fired east of the lower Mississippi River in the late afternoon. At 6:15 p.m., to the west of Moulton, Alabama, yet another F5.
Hey, just for the record, now Alabama falls into Dixie Alley, right? I'm pretty sure that Alabama falls into Dixie Alley. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like in Dixie Alley, the nighttime rain-wrapped tornadoes, dude. Whew.
5-rated tornado would find its way to the ground. Just north of town, multiple homes were completely swept away, and even a water pump was pulled out of its well house. Debris was granulated beyond recognition as the tornado traversed
Why's the picture shaky like that, man?
towards the Tennessee River. The tornado would begin to trench on the other side of the river, plastering debarked trees with earth. This F5 would run through the south side of Tanner, Alabama.
Yep, here
where
we go.
mobile homes did not stand a chance. First responders in Tanner rushed to the affected areas to assist the wounded.
Mobile
when
homes.
the unthinkable happens. Yet another tornado touches down to the southwest of town and in a deadly 1-2 punch plows through the center of Tanner. For the second time in 30 minutes, Tanner has been hit by an F.
2 times in 30 minutes, 2 F5s going through an area that is has some mobile homes. Now, in order for it to get an F5 rating, I would assume that there was also some well-built homes that got swept clean, right?
5 tornado. Folks injured in the first tornado that were brought into town were now subjected to their second F5. Whatever was spared in the first Tanner tornado
Those poor
was
people,
taken
dude.
care of by the second. Between the 2 Tanner F5s, 44 fatalities and 457 injuries occurred, the
R.I.P.
majority of which were in the devastated community of Tanner.
So what's Tanner like back in the day? Does anybody know? Is it like was this a more poor community, like mobile homes and so on and so forth? I know we've seen some mobile homes there. It's such a bad spot to hunker down, man, in mobile homes. I know, I'm not saying there's anything those people could have done. I mean, who knows? I don't know what kind of warning systems they would have had, and there's definitely nothing you could have done. You already got hit by an F5. You know, you think you're in the clear, you're trying to get people to the hospital, search and rescue, and then boom, another one.
Concurrently with the second Tanner F5, the supercell that had dropped the first Tanner tornado would produce an F4 that would rip through the communities of Harmony Hill and Pleasant Ridge, Tennessee. 46 homes and 90 barns would be added to the day's tally, alongside the lives of 11 and 121 more injuries.
R.I.P.
As day transitioned to night, an enhanced low-level jet would supercharge a late storm crossing from Mississippi into Alabama. This supercell would spawn a tornado over Caledonia, Mississippi, where it would quickly cross into Alabama. Passing north of Vernon, it screamed northeastward towards the town of Guin. Shrouded by the night, Guin would be subjected to arguably the most violent tornado of the event, and potentially in all of recorded history. A mobile home production plant was slabbed, its twisted steel skeleton.
I wish the pictures wasn't shaky like that. Anyways, now keep in mind, you know, these are mobile homes. I mean, it's pretty much during even a medium EF3 mobile homes are just going to get demolished. They're shrapnel. But either way, dang.
Skeleton thrown downstream. Brick residential homes were not only slabbed, but their foundations themselves were either moved or in some cases also completely swept away.
Wow.
More catastrophic damage occurred 23 miles upstream in Delmar, where the now mile-wide nocturnal wedge would wrap mobile homes around debarked tree trunks. This F5 would mow through the Bankhead National Forest, tossing trees like toothpicks before roping out 103 miles from its origin, just south of Decatur, Alabama.
Look how close that is to Tanner, Alabama again. Like, Tanner, Alabama almost got hit with 3 F5. They got hit with 2 within 30 minutes and almost got hit by a third that night. My goodness, man. That place right there got ravaged.
The final tally for the 7th and final F5 of the day would be
Gooing
546
F5.
flattened structures, injuries to 272 individuals, and 28 fatalities.
R.I.P. It's a lot of injuries, man.
So far, we've recounted the cliff notes of 10 major tornadoes from this outbreak. However, this is just a fraction of the total story, as the day's final totals are overwhelming. Between April 3rd and 4th, 1974, a total of 148 individual tornado swaths added up to an astonishing 2,600 miles of destruction. Human impacts were vast, as there were over 5,400 severe injuries recorded. On top of that, a tragic loss of 310 people.
R.I.P.
The final damage assessments accrued to an estimated $843 million, a whopping $5.3 billion when adjusted for inflation. To come up with that damage figure, it was thanks in large part to one particularly zealous tornado scientist. Evaluation of this disaster
Ted
was
Fujita.
unlike anything seen in prior weather history, but for Dr. Ted Fujita, this was the type of event he dreamed of. He scrambled to put together air crews and survey teams.
I ain't gonna lie, I have to really pay attention. It's the slang whenever I say Fujita. I just want to say Fujita. The hillbilly way. Just throw it out there. You know, mix it all together. Fujita. Fajita.
While tornadoes were still in progress the night of the 3rd.
We'll just call it
Time was of
Mr.
the
Tornado.
essence, as the cleanup of Fujita's precious evidence would most certainly begin at sunrise on the 4th. Single-engine aircraft darted over hundreds of miles of damage to photograph the tornado tracks. Ground crews spearheaded by NWS employees and meteorology grad students captured detailed images of the damage and surveyed survivors to obtain as much information as possible about each tornado and their actions that saved their lives. With a massive mound of evidence gathered, Fujita and his team sifted through it all at the University of Chicago. Over the next year, he put together the most detailed and comprehensive tornado outbreak survey to date. This event would be the first ever wide.
Well, Ted there, man, he's a legend. He's a legend, man. I've been doing some research into him, and there's gonna... I don't know if it'll be out before this video or not, but I'm working on a video on Ted Fujita. It's gonna be more of a simplified version. You know, I'm not gonna do like a 5-hour deep dive video, you know? What a man, though. Come over from Japan after World War II. Spent the rest of his years working for the University of Chicago. Laid the groundwork for tornado research. You know, obviously, you know, you got the Fujita scale, and then, you know, they kept Fujita in it with the enhanced scale, the enhanced Fujita scale. And something, he also did a lot with airplane radar as well. He made, you know, riding on an airplane safer. This dude's an absolute legend.
Wide-scale implementation of Fujita's scale, the scale nobody outside of the meteorology world knew of at this point. 34 tornadoes were assigned in F2, 34 in F3, 23 in F4, and 7, the distinction of an F5. This meant 98 of the 148 tornadoes that day were significant damage producers, a figure completely unprecedented in tornado history up until then. In the wake of April 3rd, while communities picked up the pieces and started the long road to recovery, the wheels of Capitol Hill started to turn, to change disaster response. Congress expedited the unanimously passed Disaster Relief Act of 1974. Most notably in this act was the action to create an agency that would coordinate disaster response, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, better known as FEMA, that we know
FEMA.
today. When all metrics are considered, the 1974 super outbreak was the most impactful tornado outbreak in American history. Its impact is forever cemented in dozens of towns dotted across the Ohio and Tennessee valleys. While its unprecedented impact was undoubtedly devastating, it forever changed tornado science and also set the wheels in motion on Capitol Hill to cause change in disaster response for the better. For 37 of the past 50 years, it seemed unquestionable that the super outbreak was a once-in-a-lifetime event. In 2011, however, that would cease to be the case. But that's a story for another day.
All right, dude. Once again, June 1st, a link to his channel will be in the description below if you guys want to check him out, along with this video. 1974 tornado outbreak. Dude, that's insane. Those 7 F5s. 2 of which hit Tanner, Alabama, and Tanner, Alabama barely dodged the 3rd one later that night. Whew, those poor people, dude. How was the rescue and help process? I know they end up passing FEMA because of this event, but like how did that go prior to that, helping these people out? Or is it just fend for yourself type deal? RIP to all the fatalities there. It's absolutely insane. Such a horrible event. I'm glad we finally got around to watching that and learning a little bit more. Dude, that's crazy. I want to look at this scale one last time right here. I mean, 98 tornadoes that produced significant damage. 98. That's just so scary, dude. So scary. Those poor people. You hate to see it. Hate to see it. It's fascinating to look at and research. But to be there in that time, and when you actually sit back and think about it, like, holy dude. And poor Tanner, Alabama. To all the people that recommended, Tanner, Alabama, I appreciate you. That's actually what led me to this video. I heard that it was part of the 1974 outbreak. And, hey, we got to look a little bit of a look into it, man. 2 tornadoes, and no one had ever mentioned, though, that they nearly got hit by a 3rd. I mean, on that map there, it could have been a decent ways away, but it's close. Yeah, it's too close. The poor place, man. All right, guys, I am Cheep. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and all that good jazz. We'll catch you in the next one.